Testing, testing, testing. As always, we are always testing. We are improving step by step, day by day. And as far as it goes, for the record, this is officially Soup City Sins Obscura. We're here. There's not much else to say than that to get started. This would be the start of book 4. We left mise en scene with the gathered motley in the midst of attempting to stop Mr. Wednesday from escaping from Lenora's art gallery and the troubles that brought to the fore. So yeah, there is that. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How we doing? Noble, you out there? Hello? Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. How are we holding up today?
Trying not to fall asleep.
Hey. What's up, Jay? How we doing? Are both of you guys mics now?
Not that I'm aware of.
There you are. What's up, Kira? How we doing?
I am doing alright. How's everyone else?
I'm okay. I'm okay. You think I'm muted?
No. Why?
Alright, so the boy gets back today. I guess I'll start things off and get us moving. So I need to find out how was his sojourn in the great Northeast. Does everybody remember where we were? We did leave mise en scene, as it were. Several factors afoot, and as is far too often the case when dealing with the chaos of the world in which these personages exist, shit hit the fan. The fat was in the fire, and the outcome was anyone's guess.
I'm definitely gonna need a recap.
Alright, sounds like a plan.
Got it. Due to a snafu at the club, what attempted to be I'm a hide turned into look at me and everybody else in the club. Wild magic is a bad thing sometimes. We got the attention of a gallery owner who has a thing against Stryker and wants our help in thwarting them. So we made a deal, and then when we got to the gallery, our favorite Mr. Wednesday was there, and he was hobnobbing and schmoozing people, but it was sort of a trap, not quite a trap. He wanted us to be there the whole time, but we flipped it on him at the last minute. He tried to run away. Aurora tripped him. And that's where we paused.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Yes, a lovely Cliff Notes, Spark Notes, Reader's Digest of the many vicissitudes and varieties of the characters' actions. Do we have any questions, or more accurately, what questions do we have in regards to where the Motley is and where they might reach before the end of the book, which will come fairly quickly, all things being equal and considered?
If a bottle of turpentine falls on Kira, will she die?
No more than usual. Falling on her is a little different than her ingesting it, and so while just like the lupines, she has an allergy towards things that are obverse to her being. It's the ingestion of such things, it's the taking in of such things that will have the most deleterious effects.
Okay. So if she drinks it, she'll die, much like any other mortal.
Right.
Yes, perhaps a bit more painfully, a bit more understanding that it is not just her physical form that is ceasing to be, but her name being unwritten from the book of time. Her existence as a being torn between two realms, finally coming to a tragic, graphic end. Or something like that. I'm just spitballing here. There's no definitive way that's going to work out. Yeah. Oh, and then sad news, kind of, sort of. I lost my dragon while making the bed and, the futon out here in our office space. It decided to try to take flight. Unfortunately, it did not realize that the spell had not completely lifted, and it was still, in fact, molded clay. And clay can't fly, and when it strikes against the ground, that is all she wrote. So I don't have my normal, usual, been with us the entire time, dragon incense burner. I did, however, I didn't, but the wife did obtain a replacement dragon incense burner, though it's the wrong sort of incense. It is the down-flowing incense, so all of the previous incense that we have doesn't really work for it, not all that well. But it's still a lovely piece. Needs to be broken in. And the starter incense is a mix of jasmine and lilac. So a little mild, but it gets the job done.
This is a tragic day for the dragon.
It is. He's been with us this entire time and has seen his way through several worlds falling apart, being built, and all of that. He's been with us the entire while. Our ever-present watcher, our stoic guardian, seeing to the adventures of these characters and all of the others that have danced across our imaginations. I can tell you that the sacrifice has not been in vain, and offer my thanks for your time, your energies, and everything that has come before. I can't say it enough, and I will say it immortally. Thank you all. But I had ceded the floor towards questions, suggestions, hypotheses, all of those many corners we may need rounding off or sharpening, as the case may be.
And I take it that means there's no questions.
Okay. Yes, our silence, attesting that we are of a mind. We are reading from the same page, or book, or chapter, or in the same library to get things moving. That we understand the situation from both the characters' internal monologues and conversations, as well as the overarching as to where they are. And with me beating around the bush and the dead horse and driving home the fact that there's a lot that we have to accomplish, that we hopefully will make our way through. This is officially, without a shadow of a doubt, Soup City Sins Obscura. We've managed to experience a good deal with these characters, with this motley, with this fantabulous imagination and re-envisioning of the world through a lens of the impossible. Not in the deeds that they've done, but in the vistas that they've seen, in the magic that they carry with them, and in the hopes of their hearts. More times than not. A silent yearning for other, a wish to belong and be accepted, a hope for all of yesterday's nostalgia to be in fact real and true. But it is impossible. It is beyond the pale. It is always just tantalizingly close and far enough away that no amount of distance travel will reach that destination. It's the imagined oasis. It's the hallucinations of reality, compiling one upon the next, leading inexorably towards some end. And with this, Book 4, Chapter 1. Prom night. I'd like us to dive right in with both feet, holding on with both hands and holding fast. Because as we left the motley, Kira was the closest to the door, having been overwhelmed and aghast, agog at the many cultured, fashionable individuals that were, until she disappeared, and even now, part of her life by extension. They are the proctors and student professors and non-tenured teachers who do so for the love of spreading knowledge, but having all come from some semblance of wealth. They are her neighbors, her former school friends, people that she has not watched grow, but has found herself in their world all the same. Next closest to the door being Hazel, exiting, changed from how she entered, more suited to the environment, the wishes and whims and fantasies of those gathered. Another moneyed, well-heeled, silver-spooned patron of the arts. Next, closest, nearly at the mid-range of the group, moving from the center of the action, nearest Mr. Wednesday towards any and every way out of this situation. It's Harmony, the cold, austere warrior of Winter's race. Having been frozen with an action. There's too many eyes, there's too many ears, there's too many people that will witness and remember. There is very much the unveiling of what you are that holds her at bay, that keeps and stays her hand, that forces her to rethink how best to win this battle and claim the final victory of ending this war of Mr. Wednesdays against the world and worlds at large. and close enough to touch, all too near the nearly prone Mr. Wednesday. Aurora, the shining bit of water, as all water is in fact the same in one way or another. Water becoming what it is part of: a cup, a bowl, a body, a riverbed, an ocean floor, moving, changing, silently furious, and raging in its peace, the very embodiment of that. Though her seeming something completely otherwise. Her seeming is, well, easily misconstrued as one thing or another based on the biases of those who cast an eye onto her mask. And then Prom, well, nearly so. Mr. Wednesday, man of many faces, aims, and goals, and plans within plans, and wheels connecting to sprockets and gizmos, now laid nearly bare. And all around them, moving and mingling and whispering to one another, the moneyed individuals of the city, not far off the patron who rescued them from the succubus, watching on a curious, not quite angry, but clearly less than pleased, in deciding what, how to move forward as this moment, this calm, effete gathering of storms turned into a full-out fracas. It's Lenora. And all the walls around them, artwork worth, well, whatever it is worth. Inflated, deflated, conflated, various values, all adding up to far more than it can ever truly measure up to, and far less than its effect on society. Because art, like words and emotions, and in every expression of humanity as a whole, it's completely and totally useless. You can't eat it, you can't clothe yourself in it, it does not go very well if you try to build lodgings and housings of it. And yet, art, emotions, words have an inestimable value that can never be measured. They are the very foundations of society. And with that thought hanging over us, I'll give you guys a few moments to collect yourselves and decide what next. Because as Mr. Wednesday hits the ground, there is an alarm that he is preparing to unleash whole cloth and turn what was a minor, small disagreement into a huge, watched and expected gladiatorial event. So, a quick moment, and then we will dive in. So, 1 second. Hello, Father. How are you? Unless it is very happy. Good, that's more. It's not this. Kills people. That was next to a nice little coffee shop. We were up in Woodstock. I got this headband from after bed to school. Also, they proposed. So it's more like a promise ceremony because we don't actually have the wedding ceremony for at least a couple years until we figure out a little bit of celebration. But it's a promise since then. We have this stuff. Did you hear your balloon pack for your grandma's car? Listen.
No, not that. But I got a very young one. Actually, even more packages.
Alright. I love you guys. I gotta get back in. Be good. My grandma. Love you. Alright, thank you for your patience. And off to the races we go. What is it that we are in fact doing?
Panic a valid option?
Panic is always a valid option.
So just a reminder, where is Kira in this again? Where is she positioned?
She's the closest to the door. Your patron, Lenore, is, mingling and flitting to and fro like the social butterfly that she is, but would be closest to the door you all entered would be Kira, as she realizes in the mix of all of these people are individuals from her past, people who grew up in the same circles in which she existed, i.e. her fetch.
Ooh. Okay, I think Kira's gonna try and meet up with Hazel to see if maybe they can think of something together about how to stop this from becoming a bloodbath. So I think that's what Kira's gonna do.
Okay, so circumnavigating around the gathered crowd.
Or actually, is Hazel like at the opposite end from where Kira is?
There is a good deal of traffic that she would have to make her way through.
Okay, maybe that's not the best idea then. Right, I might need more time to think then if someone else wants to think of something.
Okay, well, with Kira being the inaugural tossing out of idea, let's slide right along. Hazel!
Yes.
What do you do?
Before she leaves the bathroom, she is going to tidy her apparel up just a little bit to, go with this new appearance of hers. And then she is likely to exit and, just mingle, because that's what she's expected to do. Being the living embodiment of the juxtaposition of street and beauty, I guess.
Okay. So mingling as Mr. Wednesday begins to scream bloody murder. And Kira is clearly stuck between the best course of action is to run screaming into the street. Yet her friends, associates, her motley are here. Mr. Wednesday is here. Her faces from her childhood are here. So torn between outright, sheer, unadulterated panic and not wanting to draw attention to themselves, they're all but catatonically there by the door. The wheels are spinning, the tales, the many rumors, the gossips, the myths, all of those combining, conflating into a catastrophic kaleidoscope of inaction. And while you mingle and Mr. Wednesday is screaming at the top of his lung, "How dare you put your hands on me, oh my God!" And people are, well, doing what people do. Even in this particular social circle, the phones began coming out. People are demanding, "Someone call security! Where's the police?" And while that is happening, Harmony, what is it that you're doing?
Who's touching him?
The floor right now. Just a few seconds prior, it was Aurora.
Harmony will just smirk at him, kind of baiting him.
Excellent. And Aurora, there is an expectation. One of the main things that you all are creatures of story, creatures of myth, creatures who are neither wholly of dream and neither wholly of the flesh. So those epics of the past, those myths, that magic, all of that is part of you. There's a certain way that the story is supposed to go. There is a inherent understanding. You are facing off against your great evil, against your primary antagonist. You, the protagonist of this tale, have managed to outfox them and send them sprawling. The canned laughter is supposed to start up. You are supposed to leap for the sky and have a freeze frame of you caught in that moment, celebrating your success. You're supposed to have some pithy one-liner. Someone's supposed to punch the news reporter who's been antagonizing you this whole time. The bad guy's supposed to come back from the dead or nearly dead and get put down by the B-roll character, the co-star. The witch is supposed to fail getting Hansel and Gretel into the oven. The woodman is supposed to dissect the wolf and free Red and her grandmother. The evil huntsman is supposed to fall to his death. Yet, the moment you trip him, instead of catching himself, instead of tumbling out of the way, revealing that he is secretly more agile, more able, he falls like the older man he seems. And instead of springing up, blade in hand, shouting his name and what you've done to his family, he lays there screaming, yelling in pain, and drawing very much attention to who tripped him. Very much obviously in pain, the tears welling up in his eye, and the fury behind it is unmistakable. When you slay the evil wolf, when you slay the dragon, townsfolk aren't supposed to get pitchforks and torches and hunt your steps, but that is what you feel. Because he lays there looking so very aged and far more fragile than he should be. And even that part of you, the knowing part of you, feels as if you're punching down. So what is it that you do?
I use my social knowledge and pretend to help him up. I lean towards him and make sure that only he can hear me.
He flinches as
Stop
you
it.
lean towards him. He all but starts
I'm just trying to
scrabbling
help you
away.
up.
Oh my God, don't hurt me anymore, please stop! Stop! Oh God, this is here for you. We're doing this for your community. Please stop, don't hurt me anymore.
Look, I'm trying to help you up.
No more, please stop. Oh God, oh God. Oh God, she's armed, she has a gun. And he starts pointing at your waist, just underneath your jacket.
Oh my God. He's clearly had too much to drink and is drunk and needs some help going home. Can anybody take him home, please? Because he's obviously lost his mind. And she holds open her jacket. I do not have a gun.
And
Almost knocked me down.
and freeze right there as you two are battling for the hearts and minds of these moneyed, well-heeled individuals. As you are literally engaging in the most circumspect combat there is. Because it is playing on the biases of those gathered, and it's playing on what it looks like and what it appears to be. And an aspect of your person that you forget is the very real aspect of magic. You will get a defense roll, but let's see. 1, was he successful? 2, were you successful? And 3, what is the facts that present themselves the moment you open your jacket? So, bear with me, let's bring up those notes. Because now it gets, well, now it gets whatever it is that it gets. It is a contested roll, which be so kind as go ahead and roll your presence and your word versus his presence and his word.
Does it help that I have calming as an ability?
No. It'd be calming would apply if you were targeting one particular person, talking them off the edge. You're attempting to sway magic itself in one particular aspect and the entire gather, people who are witnessing, people who are already calling for security, people who are already turning into their biases, and people who already had a view of him. It would be negatives, unfortunately, but we're just going to do a straight roll. And as that roll is happening, and you will see what is developing, there is an aged individual knocked to the ground by some callous, uncaring urban youth. and see how the crowd is beginning to respond. What, if anything, are the rest of the motley doing?
At this point, Kira will finally decide, meet back up with Hazel, and then they'll decide what to do from here, because this ain't looking good.
Harmony, Hazel.
Hazel would probably be looking at the scene, pondering it. Likely not too terribly difficult to find since she's, off looking at artwork. But, it's not the same looking Hazel that you came in with.
So in that case, Kira would run up to you, but then be like, "Oh, sorry, I think I might have had the wrong person. I thought you were, my bad."
Hello, Kira.
Oh, right. I forget you can do that sometimes. What do we do about that? And Kira points to the whole scene going on in the middle of the room.
It seems that the likely thing would be to assist. However, the smarter thing may just be to slip out a side door since we're not directly involved.
Okay. I don't know how we can assist. It's not like I can just... I don't know really what I can do here.
Not exactly a place where my penchant for fear is the appropriate route. I don't know. They seem to have gotten themselves into the thick of it, haven't they?
You think maybe we could do some way to provide a distraction for them to get out of here, just run over and look like we're trying to help the guy so that those two can get out?
Perhaps. Hazel will look around and see what kind of artwork is near her.
The gathered artwork is easily in the mid to just below uber expensive modern pieces. There are several from, well, most walks of life and most strata when it comes to actually creating the art. There are not hundreds, but there are quite a few pieces from the youthful urban artists. Much of it scratched and etched and multimedia and ideal. There's lots of semi deconstructionist art. There's lots of street art produced via canvases and in whole blocks of fall created walls and in places where they shouldn't. There's street sign artwork that's hodgepodge together. So it's a wide swath of differing art that all appeals or all aims towards representing the natural beauty or ugliness of the city in which you all are part of. And while you're deciding, Harmony, while all of this is happening, while that roll was in the offing and the fat has hit the fire, what is it that you're doing?
Harmony will stride forward, putting herself between Aurora and Wednesday, and she will help Wednesday to his feet, whether he wants help or not.
Alright, sounds like a plan. Go ahead and do me a favor and roll your roll your strength and your brawl contested. At 4 successes, he won't need to roll. But yeah, your strength plus brawl. And as you stride forward and Aurora raises her jacket to show that she is in fact not armed, something Glock-like falls, hitting the floor, sliding there just beneath that bureau, mostly out of sight. And there's a combined oh my god, someone call the police! While no one takes to running, there is a marked increase on those who are moving with haste, moving with speed. They are pulling out phones. Someone is moving towards the gallery phone. The servers and staff present to help guide and strum up conversation are undecided as to whether they should move toward the danger or away from the danger. They're not paid enough for that, but you can tell that they're dropping their pretenses, those that have been scattered amongst the crowd, to drum up interest and attenuation. There's the fact that Lenora is at this point, there is no disguising that you all somehow managed to piss her off deeply enough that you all fear for your everlasting souls, because as she's instilling calm and trying to work against the heightened self-preservational aspects, you all, having been as lucky as you were when first meeting her, have a little bit of inoculation against the aura of adoration that is being summoned, seeming as if the lights in the space are focusing on her, her movements drawing the eye and the attention. There will be epics written and poems devised for this one moment of her attempting to settle those around her. Essence, the touch of her, the smell of her, the look of her seems to be working in accordance with the angels on high. Those nearest her are beginning to focus more on her as she, everyone calm down, this is clearly a matter that can be settled. And as she's speaking and her words aren't actually reaching your ears, there is still that essence of calm that is alien to you in this moment, that seems to be working its own magic against yours. as you stroll through the crowd, as they begin moving away, and hearing the metallic Glock sounding, whatever it was, hit the ground and get knocked away from you, or Aurora, and watching as Harmony stride through the crowd, the very essence of a Valkyrie wafting off of her. What is it that you all do? Like, it's reached a fevered pitch. These people are calling the police, looking for security, and finding every way to establish some distance between themselves and the school shooter in their midst. Because there's no denying, you all look far younger than your years. You all look as if you are the disaffected youth that these installations are designed to aid and assist. You look like the target demographic.
Seeing that this isn't going well at all and that people are genuinely wanting to call the police on her, and that the lady that they were supposed to be making a deal with now looks pissed, Aurora just fuck it, fine, I'll leave, and heads for the door.
And hearing that, Carol turned to Hazel and say, well, I think that solves our dilemma, so guess we should get out too.
Some of it at least. Hazel will offer her arm. Shall we?
Yeah, we shall. And Kira will take her arm.
Mr. Wednesday isn't strong by any stretch of the definition. He is a giving, good, and game social manipulator. And somehow, as Hazel all but bodily lifts him as if he's dead weight, he managed to squirm free to make it appear as if she's fumbling him over, or if you were so biased as to believe she's actually roughing him up as she helps him to his feet, the sort of aid and assistance that is designed to hurt more than it helps. And those who buy that act, because it is clearly an act, Hazel and the escaping Aurora know that it was in fact an act on Mr. Wednesday's part, but it is in fact quite believable, far too believable, far too involved. His choice of actions may not be good by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to the gathered motley, but the fact that he is actually acting makes all the difference in the world. And as the motley flees the situation, as they seek escape, would you all, being as you all are working individually of each other, Kira and Hazel, would you be so kind as to compare and contrast who has the higher of your resolve and athletics as you dodge and move and use the surreptitious egress? Because whoever has the highest will do the roll with a +1. And the same roll for Aurora and Harmony.
My resolve is 2 and my athletics is 2.
Well, that's better than mine with an athletics of 1.
Alright. So I'm rolling.
Resolve 3, athletics 1.
Alright, give it a roll. It is contested, but the total is what we're looking for.
Oh, that's sad.
Would trained observer count into this, and she can kind of pick out patterns?
If she had time to sit still and watch, yes. However, in the case of everyone fleeing and everyone making their own way out, there's not much time to stand still and watch.
I'm burn a willpower on this one. This was sad. That's somehow even sadder.
We love those messy criticals.
Succeed so hard that you somehow fail.
I mean, how do you think Hazel looks like this?
How many you saw out there?
Yep. I rolled. I was first to roll.
Oh, there you go. I didn't scroll up high enough because I was looking. I was like, okay, there's Mr. Wednesday's roll. There's oh no, Harmony rolled first. All right, there we go. So 2, 1. All right. So fate does not like you all. That much is obvious. Fate, their sister Kismet, Serendipity, they are all ganging up to make sure that you all remember this night, or at least the taste of their boots. Because there's no way. There is simply no way. There is a common aphorism everywhere in the continental United States that echoes all the way into Arcadia itself. There is never a cop when you need one. There is never an agent of peace when you need one. When you need that show of presence as a deterrent, they are never around. Saving this time. Save in this instance. There is no easy way to explain the sheer fuckery of fate and all of its associates, its many daggered hands, moving with the crowd to escape. Well, there's nothing like spending several hours answering the same question over and over and over and over again. And there's nothing like being assumed to be a criminal or worse over and over and over again. And the only thing that makes it such a glaring slap to the face and extremities, the owner of the gallery, their staff, she speaks with the police that are gathered, they somehow materialize, and whatever it is that she says to them, however it is that she says it to them, the staff of the gallery and herself are allowed to leave after locking the door to the gallery. They are allowed to leave a would-be crime scene unmolested, unquestioned, unmaligned, while you 3 3/4 of the party have your statements taken and questioned again, and a few people who tout their right to unlawful search and seizure are taken downtown to be questioned in the police station. Hours of your precious time eaten up by supercilious overzealots wearing police badges. If that wasn't measure enough of just how cruelly fate decides to play with the modeling, Tomorrow on many of the gossip sites across the Talk Tick, the Bird app, the Book of Faces and Friends and Spaces for You and others, will be the tale of the alien woman. Because even when shifting wholly and fully into her unmasked visage, Aurora is a woman. But the alien woman who turned into goo, turned into a puddle, and stepped into nothingness. You all, being of Arcadia, understand that she walked across the grate and water and disappeared into all of that below. You all know that she, in her truest forms, is only held when she chooses to be held. You all know that with her unmasked and that small bright flash of light, that it clearly left its mark on those who saw her. You all know that magic is not only real, but it has its own inherent cost. And for her, becoming a sparkling, glowing bit of the very essence and definition of what water is, with the scent of jasmine and bougainvilleas in the air, the oncoming of spring. You know it left its mark on every witness there. As the seconds turn into minutes, and minutes turns into quarter hours, and quarter hours turns into a multiplicity of hours as you all are held there on the street, answering questions to one officer, then the next, then to white shirt, then back to a detective, trying to figure out who attacked the old man, and where is the old man that was attacked, and how many of those kids were there that did that, and on and on and on. While you all could have disappeared at any moment, could use your skills and evade it, there's such a thing as too much of a good thing, and too much magic in one place at one time is as good as sending up a signal flare. And with that being the end of your particular night, it is 19 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10. Be back here at 29 after, and we'll pick up the next morning after Feces met Fan.
Sounds fabulous.
Welcome back, everybody. How we doing?
I'm back.
Present.
Yep.
Okay. Well, most of our gathered motley have returned. So let's start with Kira and work our way towards Aurora once more. There's nothing friendly about being questioned. It is an ingrained understanding amongst nearly every modern person. Asking someone as simple a question as, well, why did you do that? Or, how did you do that? Or, something completely and totally innocuous. Where are you from? Could elicit a rage, a roiling anger that is hard for them to stamp down. So it's even worse when some officious, uniformed anyone who presumes to have dominance over your situation, over your agency, is asking you questions. There's power in knowledge because you have the knowledge and you are able to apply it. Being questioned on that knowledge, however, is another matter entirely, especially if you're not a teacher or an instructor, or it is not your job to relay information. There is a welling up of a natural disinclination There's a welling up, a very visceral need to be away from that person. And for them to impugn your time with mundane, ridiculous questions that border upon actual accusations only adds to that. So having survived a questioning, a series of interrogatories designed to elicit some sign of hidden knowledge, some sign of being in cahoots with whoever was the attacker, some less than veiled, I know you're up to something, you moneyed individuals, you rich people always ruining things, or some such. How does Kira, having dealt with that, decompress or survive? How do they write it in their heads? How do they move to whatever is next for them after that?
They make a note of it.
How so? There's several officers and detectives questioning you repeatedly, cyclically, or cyclically. How does you deal?
So this is after the fact, right? We've gone through the questioning? Okay.
Yes.
So there's two things that she does with this. One, she takes a mental note of the officers questioning them, so that if she encounters them again, she knows not to get on their bad side. Hopefully with adaptive memory, she can actually remember them. But another thing she's going to do, I think I mentioned in a previous episode that she wrote like anonymous stories to a magazine or journal. She is going to try and incorporate her experience in a story that she'll write next, as kind of a way to like work through what she'd just gone through, and also to not so subtly make fun of the officers for wasting time questioning someone who is clearly not involved in the incident.
And the next day, is there any place that she's attempting to get to, or hide from, or simply recharge her social battery?
I always imagined her as more of an introvert, so I feel like she'd just stay at home, which... Hazel, did we ever establish if Kira and Hazel lived together?
I don't think we actually established it, but I assumed that you stayed over at my place more often than not because, you know, your home has another you.
Yeah. And I guess rent would be cheaper if we split it between us, so... yeah, we're just gonna go with that Kira was staying at Hazel's place. And chose to stay there while she was, like, writing her notes.
I have a very comfy pull-out sofa that we can fit on.
Excellent.
Excellent. And Hazel, there is a social stigma that had been in place for generations of generations when it came to private investigators. There was a connotation of extra legal behavior, and despite all of the many fictions about private investigators, there's always been a roguish aspect to them, a distrust, a wariness, yes, they're skilled and typically former officers of the law, but there's something erstwhile disreputable about them. All of the gray men and women from previous detective fiction have a hint of danger to them. And it is clear that while that is not 100% the common social standing, that the police still considered that to be far more true than untrue. Just the sheer, simple, forward amount of questions alone. It's almost as if they know there's something not quite normal about you, and they keep trying to poke it into the light. And the problem for Hazel, and one of the many things that she works against, is that yes, she can typically control how much she imprints on her audience, but there is always that drawing toward the fear, even that subtle fear, that fear of disrepute, that fear of being affected by the contagion of illegality, that makes being in such a relatively tight structure as the question and response of repeated abuses of their police powers to hold you there, to keep questioning you, to antagonize by passive antagonism, constantly asking questions, reframing those questions 5, 6, 7 different times, and then having another officer or detective step in and continue that same line of thought as they're trying to make up their mind. Is there really anyone to arrest? No, but if you pick just enough, someone will say, do, or otherwise give you a reason. And it's clear that that's what they were driving towards, to make an example, to give the illusion of safety and security, to, well, assure job security. How did Hazel deal with that?
Probably the same as she does with everything else. Rolls with it. She might toss in a couple of digs of her own, just from her background history, but generally, open and honest, misdirecting where she needs to.
And after that 13th labor of Hercules that she and Kira managed to survive, what would she do?
She would probably sleep for a bit. Exhaustion. And then she would probably, I would like to say, probably just goes for a bike ride to clear her head. Yeah. Some sense of her normality and her not normal life.
And speaking of normal, Harmony, as an avatar of war, as a specter of the cold, of winter, which has a stronger hold on a north Midwestern city such as this than anywhere else in the world, with being assailed, with being counter to the forces besieging you and your motley, what does Harmony do? That you managed to survive the sheer onslaught, the first several charges of the Boys in Blue Brigade. You managed to survive the unerring drive towards finding a reason to put you all in cuffs, to find a reason to win the war by winning this battle. You all managed to hold on to your calm, your aplomb. You managed to, well, survive and not give them anything. But how does that sit? Because winter's all about hiding from death. It's all about escaping it and outlasting it. The bad times making for strong individuals afterwards. How does Harmony decompress? How does Harmony find herself afterwards?
She'd be on the lookout for an opportunity to reap some glamour as people get frustrated and sad. Other than that, once she's cut free, she would probably consider going home, or what passes for home anyway.
Okay. Now, is she, when doing so, did she try to hide what she's doing from her motley? Does she try to do so with a deft hand, or does she just go for it? Does she just put it all out there because no one would know except for them either way?
Well, she would try to be discreet about it.
Okay. That being the case, it's not a repetitive emotion. There's not really much in regards to being repressed in this moment, so there's not going to be any bonuses or minuses in that regard. But there is a strength of emotion that makes it a little easier. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and now, are you actually reaping, or are you just trying to harvest just before
just harvest. She's we're around a bunch of cops. There's probably a lot of depression in the air.
No. Yes, there is. There is no small lack of that. There's in fact, a wealth of it. Being the thin blue line between chaos and order is not a small thing. And it is seldom a position that lends itself towards mental sobriety. It doesn't take long before you begin seeing everything as a reason to clamp down with a little more, with a little harder, with a little more force, with a little more decided, with a little more application of fucking with the police, with a little more you can make the city better. You can be the one man, or at least that's what most officers go through at one point or another of their career, seeing everyone and everything as a criminal waiting to happen. When you've been on the job long enough to realize that the only thing, everything that every crime has in common is opportunity, you begin looking for ways to remove those opportunities from the populace. You begin to look at, if they had the chance, they definitely do it too. For that being the case, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus either empathy or persuasion.
Because why not?
And you're not going to use willpower?
I guess, but it's bleak. Hey, look at that. That die changed from a 1 to a 1.
Gotta love willpower rolls.
There's a lot there. There's too much there. There's a seldom realized aspect of hope, even in the bleakest and darkest of winters. It's about having the strength to hold on to that dim, sputtering last lick of flame for the hearth, for the growth that comes with spring. There's a seldom achieved understanding that winter is not so much embracing death, but hiding beyond its reach. There is a seldom realized core kernel there at the center of all things cold, at the center of all things winter, at the center of all things that harmony represents. It's not easy to see. Winter is, well, bleak, gray, washed of color. The birds don't sing as loudly. The predators don't stalk so openly. Everything is creeping and dripping and far colder and wetter than you would expect. So being washed, rinsed, and washed again in the sheer weight of all of those years of depressive service to the public, while losing that sense of hope, is enough to bring the coldest aspect from her. It's enough to chill her heart, to freeze the sap of glamour in her veins. It is enough to have her breath fog and icicles to dance in her hair as she tries to tap into that sheer weight and volume of all of that depression. It's only once she begins supping and it begins seeping into her that she realizes that there is no hope there. There's no hidden kernel, no sputtering flame. It is the antithesis to everything that winter stands for. And to protect herself, to keep herself whole, she all but freezes herself in the doing. Feet, inches, yards away, Hazel and Kira watched as her mask slipped, as portions of who and what she actually is rose to the fore as the battle was afoot. Would you be so kind as to denote a increase in her banality by 1 and an additional loss of glamour? And while that's happening, escape is not possible. In other words, it's impossible. It is something that is so far beyond the pale that there's no way to rightfully explain it. Yet, as many understand and as many tout to this very day, there's an understanding as to what water is. It's fluid. It will erode even the strongest of mountains. It will change the landscape to suit, and it will also become the landscape It will fill whatever space it needs to. Because it will always be water. It will always find a way. And as the rage-inducing sheer fuckery of Mr. Wednesday pervades and perverses everything around them, she can feel his spores settling into her pores. When exiting the gallery, it is too much for her to ignore, to swallow easily. It's too much for her to just go along and get along. And as she makes it out, as she escapes the occasional reach towards her as someone's trying to keep her there for the police, she makes it through the door, finding those squad cars already pulling to a stop out front. Dancing between them, she walks across the grate, and only as she steps across the grate, guns being reached for, tasers being snatched free, does she realize that in that moment she is the glowing full aspect of her being, and she's standing above the grate, and like the devil's greatest trick, she's suddenly not there. What does Aurora do in her escape? What does the glowing, wondrous weight of water, the essence of spring and new growth, do in this most depressive of moments, when it is clear that all hope of immediate victory is gone?
She is going to take herself to the cemetery and go to the gravestone and sit there for a while and calm herself down before she goes and does something incredibly stupid.
Something like what?
Be waiting for Mr. Wednesday at that church.
She'd go alone?
She feels alone right now anyway, so why not?
Because feelings, despite being the catalyst for the entirety of everything that has ever existed, are not real. Therein lies the basic conceit of it all. Spring is new growth, forever growing anew. The restart to life, the restart to hope, joy, wonder, and splendor. It is a recurring promise. It is a resummoning of the sun and all of its graces. It's a birthing forth of life anew. After the darkness of winter comes the brightness of spring. And it's never when expected. It's always later than, or earlier than, or milder than, or more colorful than. It is never what anyone expects. It is always simply as it is, each time anew. I'm sitting there in the land of the dead, in the center of a North Side community, far removed from the idea of Hyde Park, far removed from your slice of heaven, far removed from all of the concerns of your day-to-day existence. The cast-off light of your skin, the mask no longer holding firm and fast. There is a eerie glow to you. There is a presence of light, a willfulness of lighting the dark against all of those moments that would lay you low. And feeling, just like fantasy, is not real. Yet it is one of the most important aspects that any man, woman, or child could ever have. Feelings and fantasies, and as you sit pondering, trying to find a measure of your joy, a measure of being connected to the very biosphere of this world and those that abut it, you hear, "I told you ghosts were real!" And the giggling and the laughter that you've missed, that you tuned out, focused inward, suddenly stop. You hear the sound of footsteps as people, young adults, children, take off running. You can hear the, "Oh my God, oh my God!" as they bound through the graveyards, the tombstones, and the overgrown bits of this and that. And the next morning, does she make her way home eventually? Does she get home? Does she just find a late night bar and find someone who is in the fullness of their cups to while away the time with? Does she find an outward manifestation of joy to sip and sup upon? Or does she hunt down those kids and young adults who spotted her, who spied her through the trees?
Nah, the bar sounds good. Just gonna go hang out at the bar and listen to whoever will talk to her. Play bar stool counselor, therapist. Just using that to kind of refill herself, kind of like boost what it is she feels like she lost.
What did she lose? You all had him. You all have the cards that he's playing. He's attacking the issue of changing the world from below and high. He's playing on the biases that already exist and instituting a change of thought and venue in the young. He's literally using the oldest playbook known to man and kindred. The keepers even use that playbook. Get them while they're young. Exploit them while they're old. It is a tried and true stratagem. And knowing what cards he's playing, is there anything that you all would like to do as you all ponder your escapes and find some semblance of normalcy? Is there anything that you all can do? Because while yes, the stakes are huge, it is a threat to the very fabric of what is. Not countering that it may be worse or that it may be better or just different. It is a threat to everything that is. Could you imagine the redistribution of wealth and what that would mean? Could you imagine the class warfare that would be carried out on a night-to-night, day-to-day basis if his plan for corrupting and destroying what is actually successful? So as you all find your way, as you find your equilibrium, as you get back to a semblance of who you believe yourselves to be, what, if anything, is the plan?
Aurora is going to pop back home and change clothes, but also scout out and see if her other self has gone into the apartment and may or may not be there, so she can try to figure out what to do about that whole situation.
Noted. Harmony, Hazel, Kira.
Harmony was going to return to where she crashed and try to come up with some sort of plan to refill her glamour pool, as it's about empty at this point.
Noted.
Kira will get herself something to drink while she waits for Hazel to come back from her bike ride.
Gotcha.
We'll be coming back eventually. Possibly. Nah. Just riding around and coming back.
What's how many dots of wits does Hazel have?
That would be 3.
And Kira, how many dots of intelligence does she have?
5.
Gathering her thoughts and writing the story and poking fun at the organized confusion that is modern law enforcement. How there's a disconnect between the ideals that they are seeking to uphold monolithically and how they go about doing so individually. And the utilization of those in any semblance of power, how that's applied. There is a very real aspect that the laws don't apply, and that's not exactly what it takes place in those moneyed corners of the world, in those halls of power where money is just lubrication. It is the akin to understanding how money works and making it work for you. Those moneyed halls of power and those who utilize the system as it is, they understand that each of those dollars, kugurans, yuan are their employees. It is their army that they send out there to make sure that each and every one of those metrics and measures of value return their value plus back to them. And it also applies to how they utilize law enforcement and how they influence thought by the utilization of law enforcement and making fun of them, of the police in specific and the situation in general. It is clear, absolutely crystal clear, the cars that Mr. Wednesday are using. He's using those moneyed loiterers who need some excitement in their life to fund those disaffected by the disparity of value and power. He is using, again, one of the oldest tricks in the book. And one of those many tools are the police. He escaped as if he knew they were on the way. He ceased to be and was willing to bleed and be battered for his end goal. It is as clear as day to Kira. Unavoidably so. And on your bike ride, on your travails through the greener walkable spaces of Hyde Park and the outlying areas, there's a natural blight to the urban environment. There's a natural waste and filth. There's a natural deadening of those many vaunted imaginary vistas of your youth. Cities kill dreams. It's just what it does. It's a byproduct of living so closely and becoming so enmeshed in the ebb and flow of the day to day that most people don't realize as the situation becomes untenable. When they stop flying in their dreams and begin to fall. For most, they don't realize it, but you riding, being pressed into, being washed amongst the teeming masses as you make your way through Hyde Park and the outlying areas, you see it. Hyde Park has always been a melting pot of ideals, everyone aspiring for the best in themselves and the world around them. But little things, the coffee shops, the prevalence of fast food versus local restaurants for the area, mom and pop, the disappearance of an actual hardware store that has existed there for eons, the influx of Target and Walmart, the prevalence of liquor stores, and the sudden cropping up of storefront churches. The vacant lots no longer being tamed and manicured and turned into play lots or gardens or otherwise taken care of. Those small things adding up, pointing towards reaching critical mass where the urban blight becomes full outright destruction. Instead of the churning up and chewing up of the old and something new taking its place, something better for the local environment, things are growing untenable. People are investing in mindless, soulless spaces and ignoring the world around them, ignoring the good they can do just right next door. It's almost as if someone decided to step on the gas and hasten things, moving their timetable up. So getting back to Kira, the exertions and the efforts and what you saw just riding around, sitting there on the tip of your tongue. What, if anything, does Hazel and Kira do? Or decide to do? Or decide not to do?
Something that she's gonna make note of and file away for when she meets with the others later, when they see each other again. from Kira's perspective, she doesn't know a whole lot about this Mr. Wednesday, but since he seems to be causing problems for Harmony and now for Aurora, he knows it's only a matter of time before he becomes a problem for everyone in the Motley. So she's gonna just continue to brainstorm on that until she has a chance to speak with the others about it.
Hazel.
She'll get home and park her bike and lock it up and go up to the studio apartment, and she'll look at Kira. Aside from the one time that we went through, or I guess twice, depending on how you want to count the timeline, have you noticed what's going on in Hyde Park?
I have a feeling that regardless of how I answer, you're gonna tell me anyway.
I mean, yeah. It's gotten pretty bad. I know we talked about, like, Wednesday having this timeline that he was working on that seemed like it was a little bit further out. But after last night, it kind of seems like he's, accelerated?
What exactly is his end goal? Do we know?
So, as far as I can tell, he kind of wants to ruin an area and then fix it in his own image. We found a church and a school fairly near to each other that he seems to be accruing disciples from. And then after last night, before the whole police showing up thing, it almost sounds like he's genuine about wanting to help people. But I don't trust that.
This Wednesday guy is... I mean, I'll just call it what it is. He's basically trying to mimic Odin, right? Odin from Norse mythology?
Yes. Yes.
So,
that's...
hear me out. You remember the story of Ragnarok? Like,
yeah, where
how...
he gets, eaten by a wolf.
Yeah, but, I mean the rest of it. The whole Twilight of the Gods world gets burned down to ashes, and before that everything just gets gradually shittier and shittier. There's winters that last years until eventually there's the endless winter, Fimble winter, and then brothers killing brothers and all that. And it all culminates in the giants just trampling everything and burning everything to the ground, and the whole world sinking under the ocean. You remember what happens after all that?
Rebirth?
Exactly. The world, at least in the tellings of the Prose Edda, it's supposed to come back. And this new world is supposed to be better than the one before it. There's supposed to be all these famous heroes and gods who died in the old world coming back to rule over the new one and make things better again. I have this weird suspicion that this is what's motivating Mr. Wednesday. That he's trying to replicate this cycle on a social level, trying to destroy everything, burn it all to the ground, and then bringing it back better than it was before.
How very keeperish of him.
Yeah. He's one of us, right? He's not an actual, like, you know, keeper. Or is...
I'm not that intimate with him. Harmony might have a better idea. They seem to go way back. But as far as I can tell, he's just a random schmuck like us.
That's at least somewhat more comforting then. At least that doesn't mean he has omnipotence on his side. But he does have the next best thing, which I now realize, the police. I'm almost positive that he has at least some control over the police, or at least knows their movements, because he got out right quick before they arrived. It's like he knew they were coming and when, which, if he did know something like that, then that implies that either he planned for it or someone tipped him off. And obviously that whole thing was an act to get them here, or to the dance floor, but bottom line is he...
Buddy with Lenore.
Yeah.
And speaking of Lenora and the happenings before, the value of glamour is twofold. It keeps you from being noticed. It hides you invisibly amongst the fabric of the world, keeping those huntsmen and their hounds and the wild hunt and the attention of the keepers away from you. It gives you the opportunity of being all but invisible. That is, until you are taxed, until what you are is unavoidable. A creature, a being of neither world, neither at home in Arcadia, nor safe in the real world. Where actually is Harmony's glamour?
At 4.
So like Jay Gatsby's green light at the end of the dock, she is ever there, a signal, a beacon, a homing location for any and every creature of Arcadia that happens to be searching for the lost, for those that don't fit in, for those that, well, should be kept, because they become a danger to themselves and the world around them. They are weapons of mass distraction and potential destruction. Where does she go to hunt? Where does she go to stir up glamour and bathe in all of that warm security.
Given the flavor that winter prefers, can't go wrong with a shitty dive bar.
Now, is she a carouser? Does she invest herself in the actual ebb and flow, or does she try to hold herself aloft? Does she make herself the impenetrably indecipherable Madam Winter, or does she invest in keeping the good times going long enough that she might sup freely?
She probably considers herself above it, plus she's just kind of cold naturally anyway.
Alright, that being the case, to be so kind as to go ahead and roll your your presence and either socialize or simple sheer intimidation. Does she become the stalker sitting in the corner smoking her tobacco as every soul in the building eyes her suspiciously? Or does she become that gruff, unapproachable, yet conversational individual where it's mostly monosyllabic and it's like a rodeo? No one believes they might have the opportunity of getting through to her and making an honest connection. It's about how long they can engage her in meaningless conversations so they can go back to their peer group, a high five, or complain about her not being a real lesbian, or complain about her, clearly having, mommy and daddy issues, or she wasn't that hot to begin with.
That's 2 successes and probably the second choice there. So I guess that would be the socialize. My dice pool's the same either way.
So both. Why not both? So scaring up and intimidating just enough of the rougher crowd from thinking they have a chance or a reason to start trying to protect her, and being just conversational enough to keep everyone interested but know they won't get a chance. It is a balancing act of being in the world but not of it. The world of free-flowing drinks and shots and beers and dance-off. And unfortunately, because of the way that society has changed, the exchanging of memes and gifts and the sliding of phones back and forth, or holding it up so that the crowd of your associates can see. There's the quiet, surreptitious vapors who inhale deeply and blow towards the floor, hoping that no one notices. Every bartender, every waitress, every server actually does, but depending on how well they tip, it can be a little bit ignored, as long as they don't make these huge, noxious clouds. A little wisp here and there. After all, it is just water vapor. And yet, she manages to hang on. She, like they, are playing a game of rodeo, social, because as cold as she is, that kernel, that small sputtering flame there at the center of her is still there. And occasionally, someone genuine enough, someone's honest enough, someone's forthright enough to actually melt a portion of the armor around her. Someone's able to get just enough movement and just enough friction that the outer chill of her being begins to water, begins to drip, begins to threaten her sense of self. So go ahead and replace 2 of the banality that she's been suffering under. And in perfect timing, no less than. Because as she does so, the mask adheres, the truth of her beginning to become more vibrant, and the mask sealing around that, keeping her from triggering what the sight of magic actually does. Also, at the absolute last moment, throwing off the scent of the hounds. Just as that last dram of glamour flows into her, she can feel a warm, candy-scented wind pass her. She knows that somewhere out there in the night, the huntsman of a particular keeper manages to lose her scent. If she was a plane and she had her air traffic control, it would be what is known as a near miss. So very close that she could feel the presence of them out there in the night, but just shy. And while that's happening, there's something funny about human nature. It's annoyingly funny. We are social creatures. We need all of the strengths and weaknesses of coming together. We need that. That's how we build up our own immunities. That's how we recharge our batteries and how we deplete our batteries. It is strangely and horribly symbiotic. Too long away from the ebb and pulse of mankind, and we begin to wither. Too much dancing and all of that heat and that friction and that socialization, and we begin to shrink. There's a fine line that each of us must find to keep ourselves in balance, societally and personally. And being honest with herself, Aurora realizes that's why her other self, the other aspect of her, is able to survive in the way that they are. They are living their best lives because they have found their balance of socializing with each other and the world at large. You're unsure what memories they have, but whatever it is that they are in fact doing, they are doing it and doing it well. You make it home to your apartment to find a strange pair of jeans, some biker basketball shorts that don't belong to you. They're in the hamper, clearly being washed, but they are clearly spoils of a night well spent. And you think back to your temporary paramour of the moment. Lovely girl. Bright and vivacious and hopeful. Annoyingly so. Cloyingly sweet and caring, and going out of her way to make sure that it's not as bad. It gets better, you know. And getting home to find signs that you're fetched, that you're other, that the portion of you that is living through a different story is having a more balanced go of it.
It's a little bit angering, and a little bit of jealousy involved. And then it becomes a debate on, do I let them keep living, or do I end this now to get my life back? And is it really my life? Or does it actually belong to them? Am I the fake? So she's having a little bit of a crisis of identity, I guess you could say. And just grabbing a quick outfit because she can't stay. She doesn't want to stay here because if she stays, she'll probably attempt to kill her fetch. And dressing in the shop on her way out, she'll text the others that she has a number for in a group text. And we should probably figure this all out, is what the text says. So where do you want to meet? Then.
Hazel will respond, "It might be a tight fit, but there's already 2 of us here." And
Harmony.
What's up?
The calls to arms, as it were. Does she answer? Does she respond? Or does she simply go? Or not?
She just goes.
Like a gathering of the hand, called from far and nearer still. The motley arrives and settles into the cramped and comfortable space of Hazel and Kira. There is a lot to decide, at least on the surface, but perhaps not quite as much as anyone would think, and far more than anyone would know. So as they all manage to gather in to once more reform, what is it that lays before them? What is it that they decide?
Laura looks to the others. We need to decide what we're going to do with the fetches once and for all, because I can't keep living like this. I went there and there were men's clothes in my place. I don't want to come home and there's a man in my place that I don't fucking know, and he just starts trying to touch and do things that the other me is doing to him that I'm not doing. That's 1. And 2, I think we've made an enemy now because old girl with the gallery looked pretty pissed, thanks to Mr. Wednesday. And what the fuck was that? I tried to keep him from leaving, and he flipped it on me, and then everybody just stood around like they didn't know what the fuck to do and let me almost get arrested.
I attempted to intervene.
Well, thank you, Harmony. Yes, you did. And she looks at the other 2.
Girl looks away a little ashamed.
He literally picked the black person in the room, the urban person, and used the cops against me.
honestly wasn't sure how I could have made that situation any better.
Aurora just kind of bites her bottom lip and very stealthily or quietly kind of dashes away a tear and just kind of shrugs. Yeah, but now his ass is doing whatever the fuck it is he's done, and now he's using other people against us to keep us from attacking his ass. And felt like the keepers, or whoever it was, almost had him last night, and then he used whatever it was he just did and flipped it all on us to use it to get away.
Yeah,
To avoid fucking karma coming for him.
have a suspicion that he might have some friends or contacts in the police, because he got out at a very oddly convenient time when they arrived.
There's that.
Anybody want to tell me how he made himself look so old and frail that fucking quickly? When we fight him, he's young and chest beady and fucking bare, but last night he looked like fucking Mr. Burns on the ground and everybody thought I was the bad guy.
Harmony, you had a history with Anne, didn't you? Do you be willing to share that with us? Maybe shed some light on all of this?
I mean, he's been a thorn in my side for a while. I don't have access to his bio or anything. He fancies himself as Odin, with a little Loki thrown in. He likes to create situations like last night.
Huh.
Whatever it is, it seems his timeline is accelerated, judging by what I was noticing while I was out on my bike ride.
Am I the only one that heard him say that he prayed for us to be there last night?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Hazel will shake her head. But it makes sense.
Yeah. However, he manipulated the world in some way to get us there last night so that he could set us the fuck up.
I'm seeing one of two possibilities with that. Number one, he's just off his rocker and was just chalking up chance to fate. Since, you know, as a self-proclaimed Norse god, fate had a very big dealing in all of their religion and mythology. Alternatively, he may have had to have made some sacrifices to get that fate on his side. He's basically mimicking a trickster god, and usually in mythology, trickster gods only win by making some kind of sacrifice. Can't even count the number of times Loki's gotten himself into all kinds of unfortunate situations in order to right some wrong.
My favorite is when he turned himself into a horse and got pregnant.
Yes, and that gave us Sleipnir. There was also that time he had his mouth sewn shut because he decided he couldn't keep it shut and made some bets with dwarves that he couldn't fulfill.
Oh yeah, that's how Thor got his hammer.
And that's also, I believe, how Odin got his spear.
Yeah, and wasn't there a boat and some hair? Oh, that's how it started, the hair.
Yeah.
What does this nerdery have to do with anything?
Well, we're basically fighting Odin, so the more we know about Odin, the better. It's basically his playbook.
Is how we found the church and the school.
In fact, speaking of his playbook, I'd mentioned something to Hazel earlier about his whole, what it seems like his plan is. As Hazel had mentioned, the whole surrounding area, Hyde Park, has been generally getting worse. And to make a long story short, because Harmony, it seems you don't have the patience for long explanations. He's trying to recreate Ragnarok on a societal level. Burn it all down and then bring it back better. Specifically in his image, in the way he thinks it would be better.
Maybe he's right.
You know, out of all the responses you could have given me, that was probably the last one I expected you to say.
I mean, it's worth considering.
That he's right to just destroy everything?
How is the current situation working for you?
I am not going to respond to that because right now I don't feel like getting into an argument with
Oh, believe me, I like him less than any of you, but just because we disagree doesn't mean he's wrong.
Those are some wise words. But regardless, he is, as you put it, a thorn in our side. So we're going to have to deal with him one way or another.
Have yet to visit the school church place. Is see what's going on over there. There's a question of his little birdies.
truth, like love, cannot be hidden where it is, nor be found where it is not. That usually holds true, save when you deal with the actual magical. And even then, the best you can do is disguise it just long enough for self-doubt and recriminations to crawl into place. The truth of the matter is, as you all work at it, as you all analyze it and hold it up for each other to see, yes, on many hundreds of ways, he is right in seeking to undo the systems that are. And yes, his network has been allowed to grow and infect several of the already existing systems. And yes, his goal is fairly clear and obvious to see: the destruction of the societal norms to break those systems down so that they are implode or are otherwise destroyed under the weight of their own graft, greed, and corruption, so that the world, societally, can begin again like the first flower after winter. That the systems that they are will potentially be more honest, fair, and appropriate to the world at large. And part of that plan is to be on the losing side of the final battle. Whatever that final battle is that he's rushing towards, that he's building towards, that he's stacking on top of itself. And he clearly has made promises and oaths with keepers. He has been working at this for quite some time and keeping the bulk of the lost busy, letting them distract themselves with the chaos that he sows as he ratchets up the true value of just how bad the system is, and he makes it obvious what he's doing while disguising it with, no, it can't be that simple, it can't be that straightforward. The magic of chaos and inherent biases playing havoc, even with the magically aligned changelings. And as you all plot, plan, and decide, as the school and the church have been mentioned, the growing of young minds, the cultivating of entire communities so that they can act as a linchpin, as you all decide on what to pay them a visit, or how to pay them a visit. And thank you all for a lovely episode. Look forward to seeing you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
I actually made it. Finally. It's been 84 years.